Hey guys, Mrs. Dalton here again. In this video, we are going to cover comparing and ordering integers. So when we're talking about positive numbers, positive integers, we think big value. The bigger the number, the more we have, the higher it is, the longer, the more expensive, whatever the number represents. But when we're looking at negative numbers, negative integers, we have to remember that as the digit gets bigger, the number is actually getting smaller. So we've got to think about what that number represents and think about what that value is. Okay, so let's look at this number line. Number lines are a great tool when we're talking about integers. So on this one it says, which is greater, -5 or -3? Well, here is 0. And remember, numbers to the right side of the 0 are going to be positive. And numbers to the left side of the 0 are going to be negative. So here we've got our set of positive integers, and here we've got our negative integers. Okay, so we're talking about -5 and -3. Okay, well, let's find -5 on the number line. And that one is going to be right, change this a little bit, right here. Here's -5. And then -3 is right here. So when we're comparing and ordering positive integers and negative integers on the number line, the number farthest to the right is always going to be the greater number. So as you can see, both of them are to the left of 0, but because 3 is further to the right on the number line, that's actually going to be the larger number. Kind of think in temperature. Okay, let's say we've got 0 degrees, we've got -3 degrees, and we've got -5 degrees. Which one's going to be colder? -5. -5 is going to be colder, which means -5 is less than -3. Okay, you can look at numbers on a vertical number line as well. So all we did was take the number line from the other side and just flipped it vertically like a thermometer. Okay, so let's look over here. I've got a positive 20 degrees and a -20 degrees. Well, if I'm out playing in the snow or whatever, I would rather be out in 20 degrees than -20 degrees because -20 degrees is going to be colder. Okay, so think thermometer. Remember that anything below the 0 is negative and anything above the 0 is positive. That's when you've got your number line turned vertically. Okay, so another thing to remember is that positive integers are always going to be greater than negative integers. So if we have a choice between +5 and -5, +5 is always going to be bigger. If I've got 3 and -6, 3 is always going to be bigger, or +3. But it's when we're talking about negative numbers that kind of get us a little confused. So you can also use absolute value when you're comparing and ordering integers as well. So here's an example using negatives because the negatives seem to be where we get most confused on. So let's look at -52 and -37. Step 1, if you want to use this, finding or comparing them using absolute value, you're going to find the absolute value of each integer. So we've got the absolute value of -52 means that it is 52 units away from 0. And then this one says the absolute value of -37 is 37 because -37 is going to be 37 units away from 0. So step 2 says compare the distances from 0. And since they're both negative, they're both going to be to the left side of the 0. But since 52 is going to be further away from 0, that makes it less than -37. So think temperature again. Would you rather be out in -52 degrees or -37 degrees? Both are crazy cold, but if I had the choice between the two, I would rather be out in -37 degrees because it's just a little bit warmer, not much. So you would write that as -52 is less than -37, okay? Okay, so let's look at this one. This says use the number line to write the integers 2, -3, -6, 4, and 9 in order from least to greatest. Okay, well, first of all, let's find all of these points on our number line. So we've got 2 or +2. We're going to mark that here. And then we've got negative 3. So there's 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Then we've got a negative 6, which is going to be here, a 4 or positive 4, and then 9 or positive 9 is going to be here. Okay, and so they want us to put it in order from least to greatest. Now remember, our smallest number is going to be the number furthest to the left, and our largest number is going to be furthest to the right. So let's start on our left. Way over here, we've got a negative 6. So that's going to be our smallest number. Okay. Then we've got negative 3. Then we've got 2 or positive 2. Then 4 or positive 4. And then 9 or positive 9. So that is this set of integers in order from least to greatest. Okay, so let's compare each pair of integers using our greater than or less than symbols here. So on this first example, we've got, let's compare a negative 3 to a negative 2. Okay, well here's my number line. Let's say this is 0, and I've got my positive numbers out this way. I've got positive 1 and positive 2 and so on. But we're going to look at the negatives because we're going to be on this side. So we've got negative 1, negative 2, and negative 3. There we go. And so we're looking for comparing greater than or less than. All right, so negative 3 is here, and negative 2 is here. And remember that the smallest number is going to be furthest to the left on the number line. So that is going to be negative 3. So negative 3 is less than negative 2. Because negative 2 is closer to 0, closer to being positive. Okay, I'm going to use this same number line to look at 0 and negative 1. So here is 0, and remember that is an integer that is neither positive nor negative, and then a negative 1. Well, just looking at these black dots, negative 1 is further to the left than 0, so negative 1 is going to be less than 0, or 0 is greater than negative 1. And on this one, I could draw a number line to compare 2 and negative 20, but remember earlier what I said, all positive integers are always going to be greater than your negative integers. So you're always going to be, if you have a positive and a negative, your positive is always going to be greater than. Okay, last two. Negative 5, now what this question says is negative 5 is greater than or less than the absolute value of negative 1. Well, remember that the absolute value of negative 1 means the distance that negative 1 is from 0. So how many units away from 0 is negative 1? And that's going to be 1. So we could rewrite this and say negative 5 is greater than or less than 1. Or positive 1 because they're asking about the absolute value. So here's our number line. We've got 0 here, we've got 1 here, and we've got negative 1 here, and let's say negative 5 is down here. Okay, so negative 5 is going to be down here. The absolute value of negative 1 is actually going to be a positive 1. And the number furthest to the left is going to be smaller. So negative 5 is less than the absolute value of negative 1. And our final example, we've got the absolute value of negative 9. So we would write it like this. The absolute value of negative 9 is actually going to be 9 because remember absolute values are always positive. And negative 9 is 9 units away from 0. So we're actually going to rewrite this to say 9 is greater than or less than 1. Well, now they're both positive, so all we have to remember is which one's bigger, 9 or 1. And it's going to be 9 in this case. So we've got the absolute value of negative 9 is greater than 1. All right, guys, have a great week.